Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Moss, and in this video, I'm going to de-influence tech or getting into tech. I think this might be a video in a series of videos that are all related to de-influencing tech and getting into tech, but I'd like to focus on some of the core problems of the tech industry. And in this video, I want to address the rhetoric that has been pushed by the media and tech companies that there is a labor shortage or a shortage of developers. Companies are complaining that they can't find enough developers to fill their open positions. And while this rhetoric is being broadcasted across all channels, at the same time, you have an experience from job searchers and job candidates that is completely opposite, that is telling you a completely opposite story. And so I want to give you my take on what's happening currently in the tech job market and how do you reconcile these two contradictory stories that are being told by the employers and those who are searching for a job and those who are trying to break into the tech industry? And to do that, let's first look at the hiring practices of tech companies right now. If you want a tech job and specifically an engineering role, and you have the opportunity to interview with a tech company, the expectation is that you are going to go through multiple rounds of technical interviews with various members of the organization that you're interviewing with. And the time and energy that a job candidate has to dedicate to the interview process has increased over recent years. Companies are more often requiring candidates to do leak code style coding puzzles. And another trend that I've been seeing more often from companies is that they ask you to perform a take home project or some sort of assignment that you have to do over the weekend and turn back to them. Over the last 10 years, tech companies have flourished in a low interest rate environment where they're trying to grow extremely fast to keep up with the competition. And in order to stay competitive, they try to get the best talent. And these companies had a lot of money sitting around, and so they were willing to pay big bucks for top talent. And when I say top talent, I mean people that were uh, able to come into the company and on day one start providing value. But starting from 2022, we entered a new high interest rate environment. Money became very expensive, and so it was much harder to get the funding that you needed to attract top talent like they were doing from 2010 to 2020, 2021. Now with money being much tighter, they're being even more selective than they were in the past about who they hire. And I think that's why you're seeing the interview process in the tech industry become so miserable over, the last couple of years. And also why you're hearing this rhetoric from companies saying that there is a developer shortage. It's not that there's a developer shortage, it's that there are not enough candidates that meet their requirements. What these companies are doing is competing over a very small pool of qualified candidates that can join the company and start providing value on day one. And what they don't realize is that they are creating a smaller and smaller pool of viable candidates to fill their vacancies. And they're also driving up the price of labor costs for those qualified candidates. So they're going to pay more and more money for just those qualified candidates, even though there's a large pool of people willing to do those jobs. And the root of the problem is that companies, most companies, are not willing to invest the necessary training, on the job training and learning that a employee needs in order to perform their role. And what companies have done over the last few decades, and not even in recent years, is they've shoved the responsibility of training onto universities. But universities are not providing the material in their curriculums that is preparing their graduates enough so that they can provide value on day one when they join their first company out of college. And what's worse is that universities have been increasing their tuition rate exponentially over the last, couple decades or so, and the value that they're providing has not increased to match that tuition rate. And the question here is, what is the shared responsibility between employers and universities when it comes to training? So I think that there is an aspect where universities are not fully preparing their students to enter the workforce coming out of, computer science degrees. But on the other side, I think tech companies have taken zero responsibility in investing in people's training, on the job training. What you'll hear from most companies is that training is a benefit of being an employee. So once you're hired, you have like maybe a yearly benefit that allows you to take training, and get certified in something or take classes. But that's once you're already hired, right? But they're not going to hire you to begin with if you don't have the experience that they're looking for. They are not willing to invest in training you into a role. And you might ask, why is that? And the obvious answer here is that number one, it costs a lot of money to invest in people's training on the job. They're not providing value on day one when they join the company, and they might not provide value for several months, maybe 6 months, 9 months. And then number two is that there's no guarantee that they're going to stick around after they've been trained up into their role. Maybe you invest all of this money in training them into the role and they immediately leave to a competitor. If companies broadly agreed that, yes, we will make a sacrifice, we will invest in people's growth so that they can grow into roles that they may not initially be qualified for, but they will eventually, maybe 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the line, be able to satisfy the roles, requirements, and responsibilities, then the pool of qualified candidates would grow exponentially, and that would actually put downward pressure on labor costs. So by increasing the pool of qualified candidates, the long-term effect is that you would end up paying less for, a developer, right? And so they're so short-sighted, they're so focused on creating value today that they're not willing to create a long-term value by investing in people and creating a larger pool of qualified candidates. And you might ask me, okay, so if companies did agree to invest in people's training and growth, what would that look like? What would they actually do? And I've been thinking about this for a while. And if you look at the trades like plumbing, electric, carpentry, similar vocations, uh, they have apprenticeship programs. I don't think that there's any reason that we shouldn't have apprenticeship programs in the tech industry. There are a lot of things in tech that are so difficult to replicate outside of a corporate environment that I think that it actually makes sense to have companies host an apprenticeship program where fresh graduates or even students that are still in school can join the apprenticeship program part-time and start shadowing people in industry. The closest thing that we have to this right now are internships, but internships last like what, 3 months? And to get really good experience, you need, a fair amount of time. I think like a 1 year apprenticeship program could have a lot of benefit for a fresh graduate. And maybe there's sacrificing like pay, but they're getting experience that is going to make them valuable in the job market after they exit the program. Companies have been demanding skills and experience even in entry level roles. They're asking for, experience with technologies like, front end technologies, or specific frameworks that fresh graduates, entry level, candidates are not going to have. They didn't get in their computer science program. They have ridiculous expectations, and it's creating this artificial shortage of developers in the tech industry. I think if companies actually invested in people's growth and training, that the interview processes that you see now in the tech industry would disappear, or at least the tech interviews would be much more consolidated and not so intense as they are right now. I'm not letting the universities off the hook either, because I think they overcharge for the value that they provide. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider throwing a like on it and subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.